Welcome to the Spirit of a Badass, where we celebrate stories of courage, hope, and resiliency. I'm your host, Alecia Jacobson.
Hello, badasses. Welcome to today's episode. In January, I did a bingo night, 2025 bingo, and they really enjoyed it. And there were some people who couldn't make it and asked if I would do it podcast form. So that is what we are going to do today. I got this idea off TikTok. They were making bingo cards and then instead of doing a vision board, putting their goals on a bingo card. And I thought it might be fun because I still like the idea. If you listen to my episodes back in January, you know that I made kind of seasonal vision boards this year. And for this bingo card, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to make you think a little differently. So it's not going to be the traditional goals. It's going to be sort of out of the box goals that are going to stretch your mind a little bit. And I mean, in life news, things are a little bit fucked up. Like I decided this morning, I'm going to share it here because I think it's a really neat concept. I had somebody reach out to me today. They were responding to a story on my Instagram and she's like, wishing you everything that you need today. And that's something when I have a client message me and it's sort of like things are difficult and I don't know what they need. Like sometimes I'll say sending love if they have, something going on in their family. But oftentimes I'll say, I'm sending you what you need most right now. And I have never actually posed that back to myself. And when this woman today said, sending you what you need, I took a moment and paused and I was like, well, isn't that funny? What do I need most right now? Let's turn this question that I give to other people back on myself. And what I needed most right now is to detach from social media. So I'm still going to do my posting, but for at least today, I am not going to consume it because I think I just need I need a break on many levels, but I need a social media, just a little break today. And it's my anniversary. It's my 11th wedding anniversary. And so I want to make sure that I am in a great headspace for that and not all riled up because, saving the world is it takes a lot of energy. I think people think I'm joking when I say that. They're like, what are you? I'm like, I'm just saving the world, at least trying. And I'm not kidding. I'm 0 parts kidding on that. I have all these ideas sort of percolating of what I can do in my corner of the world. And those will be revealed probably March. I have to be careful because I get really big ideas and I hit like 100% of, pedal to the metal. And then sometimes I get into things and I was like, oh, maybe this wasn't a good idea. This might take up too much time or whatever. So I have learned about myself that when I get these good ideas, I write them down and I have to sit with them and, be with them a little bit to make sure that they're right. I had a human design episode and that is part of my human design is sort of like riding the wave and not really committing to anything until it is a strong hell yeah. So I have some ideas kind of turning around that I'm really excited about. And I hope that they're still a hell yeah in a couple weeks. But for right now, I am just sitting with them and I am chilling out. That's what I'm doing. I hope that you can take what you need and take a pause to reflect on what do you need most right now, because that will change day to day. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same and it shouldn't be the same because, what you need on a day-to-day basis is different. But I actually wrote that down this morning. I don't have a journal, but I have a calendar that I keep in a book. It's not like an actual calendar, but I just write my day down each day in a sketchbook. And I'm going to start writing what do I need most every day, because I think, especially when things are feeling kind of heavy and overwhelming, it can be helpful just to take that moment to think, what do you need most? All right, let's dive into this bingo card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the letter and what the question for you to ponder to write down in that spot is. So I'm going to go all the way down B and that will just go vertical down your bingo card. You can find a bingo card on like Pinterest, like a printable one. Just Google it. I got mine on Canva. It had words in it and I just deleted it and then printed it. And then I will put these questions and then I will post it in the show notes so that if you want to print that off as you're listening, you can kind of go along with that also. All right. So grab your bingo card and let's go. The idea of this, you look at this daily, weekly, monthly, and plan out how do you make bingo on this and start crossing things off. I had some really good feedback really good feedback. So I'm excited for this one. All right. Let's for real roll right now. All right. B, the first one is something to let go of. Something to let go of. So this could be resentment. I'm just going to give you some ideas after each one to kind of get you thinking. Old clothes. If you have things that maybe like actual things that you have been holding on to that no longer serve your space, that you have kind of been, it has that guilt inducing where you see it and you're like, oh, I really need to, whatever, something to let go of. So anything that you maybe have been holding on to, that it's time. The next one, and B, is something you want more of. So some ideas that I had were free time, family time, joy, baking, play, and ice cream. So anything in life that you're thinking, I really want to create more of this. I want more of this time in my life. The next one in B is something you want less of. And I'm also going to be sharing. So when I did this live, we had a really great conversation around it and people gave some ideas. So some of their ideas are woven in here also. And feel free to pause this and take time to reflect. This is a great group activity. That was really the wonderful thing about doing this with the live group that I did it with, because there was a lot of conversation. So I know the reason I decided to do this on the podcast is because one of my clients said, hey, could you do it podcast form? I want to do it with my family. So shout out to you. And so that could be something also. Maybe you do it yourself and then you bring the PDF to your family and you can kind of coordinate it. Or maybe there's something else that you think, oh, this would be great for one of the squares. Let me give you some of the things that I wrote down for something that you want less of. Anger. That was my goal for 2 years ago, was kind of less anger and better fighting, because I was not fighting very nicely with my husband and I wanted to fight differently. And we actually hired a coach to help with that. And happy to say that, while not perfect, much, much, much better. Something that you want less of: alone time or work. All right, next one down in B is something random. So this is just something that is absolutely, completely like off the wall, random, something that maybe has popped in your head like, oh, I should really do this. And then it's gone just as quickly because it's like, well, that's so random. Like, I don't really have time for that. Things like that. So this could be meeting a neighbor. Just maybe there is a neighbor near you that you've just had this pull towards, or somebody in a class that you take, whatever it is it's just random that you are going to go and take the initiative to meet that person. And speaking of class, maybe a new class. Some people that I've been talking to, they said pottery, a dance class, just something that you would not usually do for yourself because it's just so random. All right, the next one and the last one in B is something dreamy. So this is getting your sort of like fun and dreamy vibe, and have fun with this one. So what came up for us in this one was a hammock. That's the first thing, which I thought was so interesting because I wrote that one down and somebody else said, reading a book in a hammock. And the first step, she said, is I have a hammock. I just need to put it up. So doing that. A book, a slow Sunday. That is something that a lot of people dream about and they don't actually create. And it's not that difficult if you put a little bit of energy into how do I make this happen? A spa day. And somebody else said a new job. So dreaming about a new job, maybe a new career. All right. We are up to I, the first one in I, something exciting. So this, And for all of them, I want you to think of the energy that these words kind of stir up in you, and then an activity that matches that energy. So something exciting, some people said a vacation, zip lining, and a girls' trip. So something that kind of gives you that vibe of, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for whatever. The next one in I is something romantic. And this doesn't have to be a partner kind of romantic activity. It can be, but you can also kind of be romantic and romanticize your own life and yourself. So some people said kind of romantic clothing. That was one thing that came up. A monthly date. Somebody had said that that was something that they were really wanting to do, was a monthly date with their spouse. And it was something that they hadn't made the time for. And then kind of your life. How can you infuse some romance or the romantic vibe in your life? All right. The next one is is something edgy. This one stirs up a vibe for me. And the first thing that comes up for me is clothing, because back in the 90s, I used to have edgy clothing, and I actually love that vibe so much. And I have been trying to kind of fold it in to my life a little bit. So a new outfit is what I wrote down. Somebody had said in the group to say what's on their mind. That felt edgy to them, to kind of stop keeping that filter. And not anything, it wasn't like nasty, but sometimes if you are a people pleaser, it can feel kind of like living on the edge to say your mind. The next one in I is something to anticipate. And the reason I did this one is because the event is wonderful, but the anticipation of the event is really just fantastic. And the purpose of this one would be to anticipate whatever it is and really drop into that anticipation. So some things that came up in this one were a vacation, a date, education, a concert, and building a new company. Those are all things that stirred up that anticipation and the feeling of, I really want to drop into looking forward to this. The one that I really liked was the education and the concert. I love education and learning, and kind of like the where you go. Before COVID, I had an idea that I was going to do a new kind of workshop type thing, continuing ed every year, and do it, fly someplace to do it. I made it one year, 2019, and then 2020 got canceled, and then that idea went out the window. I love education. I love learning and the continuing ed and kind of sharpening the skills that I have. And then also the concert. I love live music. All right. The last one in I is something delulu. So something that is like totally effing delusional, that is so out there that you're kind of crazy. And the reason that I want this one is because putting this energy out there, putting it out to the universe and saying, this is what I want, attracts it to you. And I can't remember when I did this, there was something, and it wasn't very big, but I had just made a comment about something, and it literally happened that day. And it was something random. I can't even remember what it was, but it wasn't like something that was already, would normally have happened. It was the day that we did this bingo card. Nothing, it wasn't Delulu, but just putting that energy out there absolutely kind of sends the message that I'm open to this and I want this to come into my world. So some of the things that people said, I was leaving a job, and kind of what came out for them, something that came out, this idea of, if no one was around, if no one saw, if you were just kind of on your own, what would you do if there was no sort of judgment around? What would you be so bold to do or be? All right. We are moving up to N. We are at the top of N. And the first one is heal. So something to heal goes in this category. And this could be a lot of people when you get to be a parent or you are caring for a parent. A lot of times your own well-being, or if you're, very deep and high up in your career, a lot of times your own well-being gets put to the side. So the first one I thought is an injury because I feel like some of us get to the, late 30s, 40s, 50s, and you have these lingering injuries that you've never tended to because you don't make the time to do it. And you could. So something to heal would be an injury, your heart, a relationship, and then someone in the group said confidence. They wanted to heal their confidence. This, on that note, when I did this in the group, everybody was very open and sharing. So my hope is that if you do this with yourself, it kind of creates that openness. Or if you're doing this with a group of other people, that everybody's minds and hearts are sort of open to possibility and sharing. Because when one person would share, it would kind of strum up things with the others in the group. All right, the next one down, the second one down in N, is something to discover. Something to discover. Some ideas are a hike, yourself, a person, so somebody maybe that you have been curious about, a new place, taking out a map and just sort of picking a random place to discover. And then in the group, they said a mentor, finding a mentor, discovering their voice, and finding a town to sort of just wander around and discover. All right. Third one down in N is something to try. And just a reminder, this is for fun. Some of these are a little bit more serious, but this is a very playful, out of the box experience. So something to try, a new food, a sport. And then in the group, someone said swimming lessons because it was something that they had wanted to do. And again, the skill was not there and being kind of put to the side. Swimming lessons. And then another person said supper clubs. All right. Second to last one in N is something nostalgic. And what came up here was the childhood home, pictures, and then taking that a step further, the printing of pictures and either putting them in albums or hanging them up, watching old videos. That was something my great-grandparents, we gave them a gift, and I was a kid, so I guess it wasn't me, but somebody interviewed them about their life and then made a DVD for all of us. And that is my something nostalgic. Is I don't know that I have it. At least if I do, I don't know where it's at, but I want to track that down and I want to watch that. Somebody said camping because when they were younger, they used to go camping. And the last one, an N, is a challenge. So anything for you that would be a challenge. And this could be a physical challenge. That was the first thing I thought of. So anything that would be a physical challenge for you. And then what came up in the group was a reading challenge. So some people have where they want to read a book a month or a book a week or 10 minutes, a book a night. So any sort of reading. And then meditation. So there's meditation challenges. And just a reminder with these ones that it doesn't have to be a certain way. Sometimes we think things have to look a certain way, and it doesn't. So for example, I did a half marathon this year, and I decided I wasn't going to run the hills. That was just in my training plan. I was going to walk the hills because I really wanted to push myself to complete this challenge. And I did not have the training time, and I didn't want to feel like shit, but I wanted to stretch a little bit with my mind and my body. So I was like, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to run the hills. And that was just what I decided. Now, some people might be like, well, that's not actually completing it. Like, fuck yeah, it was exactly what I decided, and that's what I did. And the same thing for reading, where it doesn't have to be, this many books. It can be 10 minutes a day. And for the meditation, the idea of meditation, I get a lot of pushback on this one, but it doesn't have to be the lack of thoughts in your head. It's just taking time to sort of clear the thoughts and watch them go and watch what's happening in your mind and breathing. So that could be like a breathwork challenge, just anything that is kind of pushing you to that edge a little bit, maybe a little uncomfy, but you get to make the rules. All right. Everything is just made up. So you get to be in charge. So don't forget that. And everything in life, you're in charge and everything is just made up. All right. We are popping up to G. The first one in G is something to simplify. And what came up in this one, I said systems because that is something that I help people with all the time, is simplifying the systems in their life. Dinner, that is one of the systems that I help people simplify. A drawer, this is something that came up. So, those crazy drawers that you have in your house that's just full of shit. It's kind of simplifying that. Language, that came up in the group of, are you over speaking? Are you giving too much information? Are you kind of qualifying your thoughts? So simplifying your language. Somebody said laundry and a closet, kind of simplifying that down. And then one of the other ideas that somebody had was the sports schedules. And with that one, I have the skylight calendar. That's what it's called. And it's really nice because when I get schedules, I can take a picture of it and then I email it to the calendar email address with what person it's attached to, and it auto populates in there. So I get the PDF of the school schedule, I just forward it, and it is so amazing. And everybody can have an app on their phone and they can do the same thing. So I found that really lovely. So that's a way to simplify. And you can get that at Costco at like the discounted rate. All right, next one. We are on G. The second one down is empowering. So something that would give you that feeling. Remember, we're going for that feeling of empowerment. And what came up here was learning something new. Again, with the voice, finding their voice and using that in an empowering way. And then one of the other ideas, which I thought was really neat, was empowering her daughter. I thought that was a really neat idea through herself and kind of thinking about what empowerment looks like through that lens. G, the third one down, is something comforting. And naturally, the first one I thought of was food because I love food. Also a place. There's comforting places. Maybe you haven't been in a while. I know that I have a local place that is very comforting to me. It's by water and it has a willow tree. And whenever I'm feeling particularly out of sorts, I like to go there and just sit, sometimes walk around. When I have creative things I'm working on, when I was doing more talks and things like that, and I would plan them out, I would go there because that just felt like home there. And it was very comforting and a good space to be in that allowed my brain to be creative. Staying in was something somebody said. So if you're busy all the time, it can be very comforting to cut out that busy and stay in the comfort of your own home. Doing something for yourself, and then making life more comfortable. So what does it look like to make your life more comfortable? All right, the second to the last one in G is something creative. I think particularly when life gets a little bit wacky and out of sorts and you maybe feel a little like the control is not within you and you kind of are feeling a little out of control, or you don't have control. Really tapping into that creativity can be so helpful. And what are the things that make you feel most creative? And for this one, I have talked about on here, but I do the watercolor painting. Also, dancing is very creative. That was a goal of mine 2 years ago. An art class, somebody said. The pottery came up here again. Creative writing. I am a big fan of the adult coloring books, but anything that kind of takes your mind out of the thinking and puts it in that creative space. And then last one in G is something to learn. So something that maybe you have been wanting to learn. I know my daughter wants to learn French. I was in yoga class today trying to, calm my brain, and I'm thinking, well, I should go talk to her school about how she can maybe get credit for learning French because it's not at her school. So that was my yoga thinking. Clearing my mind was what my daughter could learn. But something that has maybe been in the back of your mind, or something that you thought, well, when I have time, I would love to learn, insert whatever it is. And that would take up the last space in G. All right. Top of O, last line. Something to invest in. I just invested in sheets and new bedding recently. I took my comforter out of the dryer and it looked like a small bird had been in there with it. Like, it was awful. So we invested, but I was holding out for a long time and it was time. So maybe something that you have been kind of looking at and you wanted to invest in. It could be investing in a person, could be investing in something in your community, something in yourself, actual physical investments, a monetary investment and savings or something like that. All right. The second one in O, something that you would be proud of. I have to say, of all of the questions, this is the one that I got the most. I don't know about that one. So something that you would be proud of. And if this one kind of gives you that same, I would invite you to go a little bit deeper. And any of them, if any of them are giving you kind of a sticking point, I would be curious as to what's making them kind of be unclear. For this one particularly, do you know what it means? Do you know what it feels like to be proud of yourself? It's something that I don't think many people practice. Or let's say that you do something really great, like you have been working towards getting a promotion or a new job and you secure that. It's like you're just on to the next. There's not that moment of like, oh, I did that, and really reflect on what you created or what you achieved or what you helped somebody else achieve. So really thinking, what do you want to be proud of? What would make you proud? Or just taking time to be proud. This could look like making a practice of thinking each night, what did I do today that made me proud? Or each morning, what do I want to do today that would really make me proud? And it doesn't have to be daily, but because I know that this one was the most tricky for people, just kind of pondering that feeling. And do you allow yourself that feeling of pride in yourself and your accomplishments or the way that you go through the world? All right. The third one, and O, is volunteer. And one of the things that came up is one of the ladies volunteered for everything with her kids' school. If that's something that you're already doing, I don't mean to do more of that. This would be in your community or a group of people that you really want to kind of wrap up in your love or whatever skills that you have. Part of what I'm doing on each podcast series is badasses in the community and serving your community and getting involved in your community. So it could be one of those, but somehow getting involved with a volunteer group. One of the things that came up was the Humane Society and kind of caring for. One of the things that is always something that I want to volunteer is anything with kind of women and children. They have just a very big part of my heart and who I am and wanting to serve people, making sure that they're safe and have their needs met. So what groups of people, what talents do you have? Maybe you are very creative and you knit or you sew and you can make things for the children's hospital or knitting hats. So just kind of looking at what your skill set, something that you would like to give to people of yourself and getting involved in that way. The second to last one in O is something you've been putting off. And this one probably doesn't need much explanation. I'm sure as soon as I say it, something pops in your head that you have been putting off that just needs to get done. And it will feel so good making this check mark or coloring in the box or however it is that you want to be marking off your bingo cards. This is going to feel like, oh, yes, I did it. It's done. And then the last one in O is a celebration, something to celebrate and really being in that energy, that vibe, that feeling of celebrating. This doesn't mean that you necessarily have to make, let's say, for instance, my son is graduating this year. I don't have to make the celebration about that. It can be every Friday night celebrating that you have accomplished another week, or you have a small thing every Tuesday, or the first of each month you have a morning celebration and whatever that looks like, or a full moon celebration. So really get creative with this one. But the idea of it is to think, what does celebrating and celebration look and feel like to you? And then how can you take that and apply it and put it into your life? And it doesn't have to be, like I just said, like weekly or monthly. It doesn't have to be like that. It can just be one time. It could be your birthday. I really, really struggled with celebrating my birthday publicly. Like, people have it on social media what their birthday is. Like, I took mine off because the idea of all these people saying happy birthday to me, I was like, can you stop? Like, which is so funny. Like, I'm great posting on social media and I don't mind that sort of like people seeing me, but different parts of me, I'm like, please don't give me that. I don't want attention. I don't want anybody kind of noticing me. But this last year on my birthday, my husband and I were in Chicago. We usually go to Chicago and celebrate my birthday every year. And I found this picture and it was of a birthday cake with a candle in it. And it spoke to me. It's very simple. I mean, it looks like something that would actually be like in a children's bedroom, but I have it next to my bed. And it is a reminder to celebrate myself, to just celebrate and not be kind of afraid to celebrate. And I have it there. And when sometimes you have stuff in your space and you sort of just pass by it and you don't really notice it. When I do see it, I pause and I think, when I think about the trip to Chicago, but I also think about just what it means to celebrate myself and what it means to be okay celebrating myself and to be in that sort of gratitude and kind of it's almost a prideful feeling of it's okay. I can show up. I can really be fully me. So that was something that I kind of had. So it could be something like that. Be very creative and free flowing with everything. And also, if something doesn't speak to you, not in a way of this one's tricky to figure out, because I think those ones can actually have a really good impact. But if something you're like, oh, this one just isn't, find something else, find another one or add another one. They said at the end, well, what do we do when we check them all off? That might be your celebration. Like you could add another celebration in to that one. Some people said maybe I'll do the celebration last and I'm going to plan something to celebrate accomplishing all of these. So you could have a mini celebration every time you get a line filled out. Most of all, have fun with this. It's supposed to be kind of in addition to a vision board, in addition to the bigger goals that you have for the year. It's a fun, different way of exploring the world that is going to make you, it's just going to enrich your life. That is the goal. So I hope you have fun with this. I would love to hear how this shows up for you. If anything really interesting showed up as you went over these questions. Yeah. And then let's get into today's badass in the community. It's time for this week's segment on badass ways to get involved in your community. I am joined by Carey Zawlocki and Beth Kille. They are going to share about Kazoo Karaoke. Carey is the director of Monroe Street's Art Center, and Beth is the music director and co-founder of Girls and Ladies Rock Camp in Madison. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi. All right. Let's get right to it. Tell us about Kazoo Karaoke.
Well, I had a friend of mine a couple days after the election send me an article that she had found on NPR about how kazooing was good for mental health, because that was something that we were all needing in that moment and continue to need. And we kind of had this conversation about, kazooing is good for mental health, but wouldn't it be so much more fun if we did it with a group of people and we got to kazoo like rock songs that we loved, because that would be fun. And so then I started to think about maybe this would actually really be a fun event to hold. And whenever I think of fun events that involve rock music or any kind of music live and in person, I think of Girls Rock Camp, because my daughter Lola has just like loved participating in Girls Rock, and both Beth Kille and Beth Dorn are amazing. And so I reached out to them and was like, hey, I have this super weird and fun idea. Would you be willing to kazoo in person with a group of women with me? And they said yes. And that's kind of where this idea started.
Wonderful. Okay. You had somebody send you some random article and this idea popped in your head. That is so beautiful. And part of this idea of me sharing ways people can get involved is because like I had some random idea So I just want to say, make sure you're sharing your ideas with other people, because you never know when you kind of plant that seed or you put the energy out there, what life it's going to take on. And now here you are with this really amazing event. And Beth, tell us, who is this event for and how can people get involved?
Yes. Well, all you have to do is come to the Bur Oak on March 8th between 1 and 3 p.m. The doors open at noon, and there'll be a sign up sheet, and you can write down what song you want to kazoo your heart out to. And I mean, here's the beautiful thing about this: you don't have to have any musical experience. You have to know how to play an instrument. You don't have to memorize any words. You just get a kazoo and you kazoo your heart out. I personally am planning to dress like Axl Rose and kazoo Welcome to the Jungle. And I hope that I can have like a whole band behind me just like going nuts with their kazoos, because it's going to be super cathartic. But this is a benefit for Girls Rock Camp and Monroe Street Arts Center. So all the proceeds will go to support our programs where we just help kids get involved with music and other art activities. So it's going to be super fun. You can get tickets in advance through the Bur Oaks website, or you can just show up on that day. But I'm sure there's going to be a long sign up sheet, because this is going to be just a fun, ridiculous, amazing, cathartic time.
Yeah. Who's going to show up? Who is this for?
Really anybody. I think that when we started talking about the event, we were talking about how fun it would be to kazoo together with our friends. And so in our minds, we're going to have a lot of like really amazing women who are just looking to find community in music and spend time together and find some joy together. But the event is for all ages. Anyone is welcome to come, as long as you're open to being a little bit silly and having some fun. And I've talked before with other people about how like it's so great to have opportunities to hang out and do things in the middle of the day, because I'm like a 9 p.m. bedtime person now in my life. And so, the idea of being able to like go and hang out and have a good time on a Saturday afternoon and then like be done by 3 o'clock sounds awesome.
Fantastic. Okay. Give us all the details of the timing, how much it costs. Can they make extra donations? Give us everything like that.
Yeah, you bet. We're at the Bur Oak in Madison. It's at 2262 Winnebago Street. The doors open at noon. We'll be doing the kazoo stuff from 1 to 3 p.m. It's a $12 cover. And again, all that money goes to support Girls Rock Camp and Monroe Street's Art Center. In addition to the kazoo fun, Monroe Street Art Center folks are also going to bring some fun crafting projects that you can do while you're enjoying everyone's crazy kazooing.
Okay. So March 8th, 12 to 3. And tell us a little bit about Girls Rock Camp, because I don't think we touched on that. We've talked about Monroe Street Art Center on here. Carey is my most had-on guest, so thank you, Carey. But we don't know anything about Girls Rock Camp. Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, you bet. We are going into our 16th summer here in Madison. We are a 1-week day camp for girls and gender fluid individuals between the ages of 8 and 18. You do not have to have any musical experience. You show up at camp, we provide either a drum set, keyboard, guitar, bass, a ukulele, or a violin, or you can be a vocalist. You take lessons on that instrument. Then you form a band with your peers and you compose a song together under the direction of musical folks like me in the community. And then at the end of the week on Friday, we go to a professional recording studio to record the songs that the campers have composed. And then they rock out at the High Noon Saloon on Saturday and showcase all of the songs that they just wrote together in 1 week's time on an instrument they might have just learned with people they may have just met. It's pretty amazing. And Carey mentioned that her daughter Lola was there last summer. And it's just remarkable what these kids can do with the power of collaboration and hard work.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Do you have the week set for that already?
Yes, we actually have 3 weeks every summer, and we are full as of right now. We open registration on Saturday morning, and all 3 camps filled in 15 minutes.
I wish I would have recorded this last week.
I know. There's always next summer.
Yes. Yeah.
Ladies Rock Camp, though, Alecia, there are Ladies Rock Camps that happen throughout the year too, right, Beth?
Exactly. That's the same premise. You don't have to have any musical experience. You just show up and rock out with your friends. It's so much fun.
Oh, I love it. So we will link those websites in the show notes also. I will be there, and I hope that I see so many of you out there. How can people spread the word? What would be most helpful?
Yeah. So, come to the event. We'd love to see you there. Like Beth said, it's just a $12 cover to get in the door, and all the proceeds are going to be split 50-50 between Girls Rock and MSAC. And we also are going to have a raffle at the event. You could win a guitar and a month of guitar lessons from the Art Center. And then, other than that, you can absolutely share. There's a really crazy, fun reel that Jen created, which is really fun, that you could share on your social media. We have flyers that we've been emailing out to folks. And so just spreading the word about the event. And then also, if you can't make it in person, if you're like, this seems like something that's super cool and I would love to support these organizations and their arts focused mission, but you can't make it, you can always just support the cause by donating. I think that both Girls Rock and MSAC are really committed to providing accessible programming. So we both have scholarship funds that each of our organizations utilize. And so, anybody who believes in the mission of what we're doing, but maybe can't attend in person and wants to support us, that would be another way to do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for both of you sharing and coming up with this idea and collaborating. That is my whole mission right now, is to create community and ways that people can get involved in the community. So thank you for being a part of it and doing the same thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. If you are loving this podcast, I would be so grateful for your vote in the Best of Madison 2025. The first round of voting is from February 1st to the 28th, and you can vote one time each day. To vote, all you need to do is follow the link in the show notes, and you will find the Arts and Entertainment category, and then Best Local Podcast. Just write in Spirit of a Badass. Thank you so much for your continued support and allowing this podcast to reach more people.
Spirit of a Badass is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Alecia Jacobson. Music by Shane Ivers. We'll be back with another inspiring interview. Until then, keep your spirits high and your energy badass.